Hello and welcome to Travel Talk number 3. This is going to be another airline story video or telling you about something interesting or funny little anecdotes, things that happened when I was flying. Some of these stories are pretty interesting. Travel all over the place. Crew members, there's lots of crazy things that kind of happened as you're traveling around. If you watch any of my other videos, you may be familiar with the Monorail Monday series. There's about 20 of those videos of what it's like to work at Walt Disney World, specifically most of the time working in monorails. And I know some of you are going, when's Monorail Monday coming back? Soon. So this one's going to be another airline video. And right now here I'm going to insert a little photo here. Here is me in my flight attendant days on an airplane. Like Disney, I don't have a ton of photos. We just weren't shooting 1,000 photos of ourselves back in the day. So I don't have a ton of photos, just have a handful of photos of me in uniform. Somewhere around here I've got photos of me at the flight attendant graduation ceremony, and that's a whole nother story. That's a pretty good story. Today's video is kind of pertinent with the times we're living in today. Hashtag Me Too. Yes, we're going to be talking about sexual harassment on the airplane. So let's just jump right into it. So at the time, this is about 20-ish years ago, I was working for a Delta commuter airline. And we operated small 30-seat props and 70-seat props, and we also had a handful of small regional jets. I preferred to work on the small 30-seat props because it was just you didn't have to deal with another flight attendant, fewer passengers, max 30, and oftentimes a bit less than that. You might only have 10 or 5 or 16, depends on where you're going. When you're going to Dothan, Alabama, it's not always a full flight. The other benefit was on the small 30-seat props, you were paired up with the same pilots for the entire month. So if I bid for a particular trip, I like the layovers, I like the days off, I knew also that I was going to be flying with the same pilots for the entire month. We were all flying the same trips together the entire month. And I like that. I liked being able to fly with the same pilots. You get used to each other, you know each other. By the end of the thing, everybody's, buddies, pals, you know your patterns. And so I preferred to work those airplanes. On occasion, I would pick up a trip or swap with somebody who needed certain days off, or they said, hey, I can't work this, can you take this trip? So we were allowed to sort of trade trips like that, and I could cover for somebody else that they needed the day off. Yeah, I'll take that trip and I'll fly that. So I picked up this 2-day trip, 5 legs each day on I think it was we had ATR 72. So I was going to fly that and fly with whoever the other flight attendant was. So I show up for this trip and get to know the guy. Hey, I'm Bill, he's Sean, cool, nice to meet you, Sean. Sean's a young guy in his 20s, about 10 years younger than me maybe, pretty boy. So Sean and I are getting along and just chit-chatting, and the second, or I should say the third leg, we fly out to say, I don't know, it doesn't really important, Jackson, Mississippi, and back to Atlanta. And now on the third leg that we're flying outbound from Atlanta, we actually have some trainees get on board. So we're going to show them the ropes a little bit, and they're basically going to run the service, and we're just going to help make sure that they're doing things the correct way. So it's at this time when the trainees are doing the service that Sean comes up and he's just like, man, you are so hot. You are really, really cute. I like you. And I kind of laughed it off. I'm not a homophobic guy at all. I have lots of gay friends. I flirt with my gay friends. We have fun. Yeah, he said this, and I kind of laughed, and I said, well, I'm straight. I have a girlfriend. And he said, we don't have to let that stop us. And I kind of chuckled. It's like, okay, whatever, you know, we're just having fun on this trip. We take off, and as he comes back again for the service, he starts saying, he says, man, I just love looking at your package down the aisle. Now on this particular airplane, the flight attendant jump seats were at either end of the aisle. They kind of slid into place over the aisle. So he was in the forward jump seat, looked straight down the aisle. Mine came out from the side, and it basically was, we faced each other 30 rows apart or what have you. So he says, I'm just watching your package all during takeoff, and man, I want a piece of that. All right, I rolled my eyes a little bit, and I said, okay, all right, yeah, not interested. I said, I'm straight. But you know, at this time, I'm still thinking, you know, all right, whatever. I'm not scared or concerned or anything. It's just you know, I get it. You think I'm hot, and that's cool, but no thanks. So as the flight goes on this fourth leg, he's saying, you know, I used to be a masseuse. I said, oh really? Oh really? Okay. Yeah. He goes, yeah, I've taken some certification for being a masseuse, and I give great massages everywhere, back, front, lower. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's great. And he says, you know,
nobody knows a man's body like another man.
I said, you got me there. Maybe that may be true, but we're not going to do that today or tonight or tomorrow. So I said, no, not going to happen. But he still was looking at me, and he's just giving me the wink, and you know, hey, when we get to the layover, I'll come over. And I said, nah, that's okay. I'm going to be busy. So we finally do get to the layover hotel, and knock, knock, knock. It's Sean. He's out there. Come on, Bill, let me in. Come on. I thought we were going to hook up. He is just dead set on being my best friend and just more. And he was knocking, and I finally convinced him to go away. So just not interested. I'm going to sleep. So next morning we're heading out early before dawn, and I know, like, I'm done with this. I said, look, I don't feel good. I feel sick. I just need to be left alone. So for the most part, Sean leaves me alone on the next day. He does the minimum work with me, and we get through the day. 5 legs the next day, which was long enough. I just wanted to get it over with. And so we finally finished the trip, and then I tell a couple of friends, I was like, I just flew with this guy Sean, and man, was he coming on to me strong. He came over to the room. We wanted to hook up. He just kept talking about how hot I was and stuff, and I said, hey, gay, straight, I don't care. Guy thought I was hot. That's a win. That's a win. I'm hot. That's a win. I'll take it. Very happy about that. But the constant push, and he wasn't stopping. He wasn't letting up, and he didn't get the message. And you know, it being the time it was, and me being the live and let live guy that I am, I don't want to get in a fight with him. I don't want to report and fill out a whole bunch of forms and get into a whole big thing. I don't want to push to get anybody fired or anything. I just want to get through this trip, telling a couple of friends, and I'm telling them what happened. A friend of mine reports back and says, well, you know, he's actually had a couple issues with 2 other pilots that he was coming on to. And I said, oh my God. And he says, so you're really upset about this? And I said, well, I thought I was special. So, you know, I was kind of joking around about it, but, you know, it was just very uncomfortable. It certainly isn't anything like you see a lot of folks who are dealing with sexual harassment or dealing, you know, there's a power element and things like that. I certainly didn't have to deal with anything like that. I was just sort of stuck in a metal tube with this guy for 2 days. Flash forward a month in the future, and I'm on one of these 30-seat airplanes again. And I'm on a 30-seat airplane with these 2 pilots. these guys, they see me, and then as they get to know me, they're like, "You're cool, Bill. We like you, Bill." First we're a little nervous. Who in the world do we have now? But Bill, we like you. So I get to talking to the pilots over the course of our 2-day trip, and the first officer says, "Well, we had this guy once, this guy Sean, and he was way over the top." And I said, "Blonde head kid, 20s?" And he said, yeah, you know him?" And I said, "Oh yeah." So I start telling him my story with Sean. And so I flew with Sean, and he was just way over the top, just really pushy, and telling me how hot I was. He liked my package, and I said, yeah, he was just really over the top. And the first officer says, "Well, Sean came up to me on another flight that we were working. He was paired up with us, and he came up and he said, 'Hey, can I have your socks and underwear when you guys are done flying?' Meaning, at the end of the 2-day trip, could he have their used socks and underwear?" Yes. Sean was asking the pilots if he could have their underwear and socks that they'd used for his own personal enjoyment following their trip. This is what this guy did. So he says they told him to get the hell out of the cockpit and don't come back up unless there's an emergency. Then the first officer was telling me, he said on their layover that night, they were in the hotel van going to the hotel, and the driver ran through a yellow light, and Sean jumped on the first officer and hugged him and said, "Oh, I'm scared, hold me." And he said he very gently but firmly pushed him into his own seat and said, "Do not touch me." And it is the same kind of thing happened then. They just wanted to live and let live. They didn't want to fill out a bunch of paperwork. They didn't want to get into a whole battle and some sort of legal entanglement and all this sort of stuff. So they just kind of let it slide. So we shared a few stories about that. And fast forward another month later, and I learned that Sean has been let go. He has been terminated for, guess what? Sexual harassment. He has harassed too many other flight attendants and pilots, trying to hit on them and score, telling everybody's package is great. So the end of the story is Sean was terminated. He was let go, no longer with the airline. So that's the end of the story. Nothing ever like that ever happened to me again. 10 years of flying. Never had another incident with another flight attendant or any sexual harassment in my direction. So that's that one weird, really weird 2-day 10-leg trip that I had. So thanks for listening. There's going to be more flight attendant stories to come. I've got some really good ones. Being stuck in New York in the middle of the night, looking for a hotel, all kinds of fun stuff. So thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing, watching, telling your friends, sharing. And remember, kids, most importantly, have a good time all the time.